All right. It is the Scott Fish Bowl playoff preview season review. I am here, Michael Rippey, as just a member of the Phil Division, SFB 14 hashtag. It is my first time. I'm with my guy, Sleazeball FF. The mind is a weapon. I got to witness that in real time, not just in person, but throughout the entire season. One of the best to do it. What's going on today?
What's cracking, man? I'm ready to dive into some Vegas Scott Fish Bowl. Let's talk it up.
Yeah, this is an exciting one because I think of all of the fantasy football leagues that I participate in or have done, this is the biggest one for sure for me, and also the most important as far as what it's doing for the community. And I think that's an awesome contribution that Scott and everybody associated with Scott Fish Bowl is able to do, and everything that surrounding it with Fantasy Cares. And so, we love fantasy football, we love football, but the only thing better than loving it and participating in it is doing it for a good cause. And so when this can help contribute to, the Fantasy Cares and the community, only, better to be participating in it. And so a big credit to Scott Fish and everybody associated with the team.
100%, man. Fantasy Cares orgs. So pretty much we get invited to play. I think there was 50,000 people this year. It was like 48,000, which is insane. We're down to top 2,000 for the playoffs here. And they pretty much, Toys for Tots. They send food to kids that need, food across the world. I was looking at a couple other sponsors, Feeding America, NCAV, GDRF, all this stuff. It's an absolute amazing cause. And let's get it started here, man. Break it down from Vegas at the beginning.
Well, yeah, let's set the stage here, right? Because look, as you said, there's so many competitors, participants, people playing fantasy in Scott Fish Bowl, and obviously SFB 14, the hashtag, because this is year 14 or season 14, which is incredible when you think about it. So how it's done, right? You have your standard drafts and sleeper to participate in the league, but then there's also the really cool aspect where you can get the community together, get together with your league mates and participate in a live draft. And those live drafts are done all throughout the country. And we just happen to participate in the same one in Las Vegas.
Yeah. And it was 120 the whole time, dude.
It was hot. It was hot. And look, the draft was hot when you look at the way your roster comes out, and we'll get to all that and stuff. But really cool ability to be live. We love live drafting. Who doesn't? That's really one of the best parts about fantasy is the draft. When you do it live and you get to meet people and you get to be around people, it's really exciting. And so we were able to participate in the Las Vegas draft, which took place on June 29th. First draft I participated in all season. Forget the best ball stuff. And so when you think about, wow, it's really early before the season too. So a lot of stuff changes even before the draft to the regular season starting to preseason. And so a lot changes, but really great time. We got to meet there. I showed up on a personal level to the Scott Fish Bowl live draft in Las Vegas, and I knew nobody, not one person, but I think, right. And I think that's really cool to share, because that tells anybody that's watching that maybe can be in Scott Fish Bowl 15. You're not going to be worried. You don't have to be scared and, shy, anything. You can participate in your location, in any location that has an opening that you're eligible for, and feel comfortable that you're going to meet people. You're going to get to be a part of the community. And over time, I'm sure, I'm already looking forward to the next live draft for next year's season, because now so fresh. Like, I'll have made some good friends. I understand the community a little bit better. I can be more involved. And so, I showed up. I didn't know a person. I didn't necessarily have a huge game plan other than try to draft great players and have a lot of fun and stay cool. And what about your experience?
Man, it's the same thing. I mean, me and my wife rolled in with no idea what was going on, didn't know anyone, and it became kind of like a family, man. We were going to piano bars, we were hanging out with everybody in the pool, drafting, and we're jumping back in the water and going back to the board. And I'm not going to drink as much next time, I'll tell you that. That's for sure. At the end, I was making some bad picks at the end, that's for sure. But the earliness of it was one of the hits that kind of costed me a lot, man. Drafting that early, I took CMC early, and then, of course, I get the update, where he's not going to play for 10 weeks. So that was costly there. But dude, the people you met there was absolutely insanely amazing. I mean, I have their phone numbers. We text all the time now. So it's like you're not just in the Scott Fish Bowl, you're in like the community of like a family fantasy football, and it's one of the best things. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here thinking, you have their phone numbers, and you have so who are you texting to get all the key pickups, the key waiver wires? What are you doing here working behind the scenes? Not just as host, your own manager, but now you're doing things. This is why your team is so good, huh?
No, that's not why. I drafted a gem. That's why. Yeah, come on now.
Drafting a gem. Well, I know you drafted a gem, but you've been complaining way before we got on here about who you drafted second. But wait, we don't need to get there just yet. Any more thoughts? And by the way, we didn't mention. So in Las Vegas, the live draft was done at Circa Circa. So
It was so tight. It was sick.
If you ever come to Las Vegas, if you're not familiar with Las Vegas, you love sports, you're participating in fantasy football, any of that, you got to go to Circa Circa. I mean, Stadium Swim is one of the most iconic, cool aspects of Las Vegas, and the ability to be there at Stadium Swim was my first time. I fell in love immediately. What an experience!
What do they call that downtown area? See, I usually, when we go to Vegas, we're usually on the Strip. That was my first time ever in downtown or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I think that's either older Las Vegas or Fremont Street, that area.
Fremont, yeah, that's it.
Yep. So it's a little bit off of the Strip, not too far, but Stadium Swim, and credit to the entire Circa Circa team that built that place and does everything. I know Derek Stevens, obviously very familiar with Circa Circa, but if you have a chance, you definitely have to check out Stadium Swim as a sports fan because it offers everything plus more.
Oh, dude, that was awesome. Big screens across, 20 screens, drinks going everywhere. They know how to promote that, man. It was solid.
The pool. I know you said you're not going to drink as much next year, but
that's probably like a lie. That's a lie.
Yeah, we'll see.
Dude, I didn't even get to hang out with you though afterwards. Where did you go?
I couldn't even tell you, man. We're talking about June in November now. As I said,
we had a group of like 12 of us go everywhere.
I wish I was part of that group, but hopefully next year for sure. And as I said, I mean, I came in completely fresh, and we met. The first time was at Stadium Swim, and but obviously we've been able to formulate a good relationship since then. It's really exciting, and the same with some of the other people, and there's group chats and all that good stuff. And I think a lot of people have their own Scott Fish Bowl experience, whether it's this season, whether it's been past seasons, whether it's you've played multiple seasons, and how does this one stack up to others, and so on and so forth. The one thing it's a great cause. It's doing great things, and it's only getting bigger and bigger and more impactful. And that's, I think, the biggest, credit that you can say.
Right. I mean, dude, even when I was talking to Scott in the pool, like he's like, man, I'm flying here, I'm flying there, I'm flying everywhere. And I'm like, dude, this place is across the world. This tournament is insane. Yeah. I mean, I'm so blessed to be a part of it, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, really, really, really cool. I think that is our takeaway. So sort of the season review or a higher level Scott Fish Bowl review of that we're talking about with what we've just kind of broken down. But let's dive in maybe to sort of what Scott Fish Bowl is. And one of the unique factors is how the scoring is not just your standard scoring that you just sign up for Yahoo, ESPN, Sportsline, Sleeper League, and that's it. Every year it sort of has a unique factor or a couple of unique factors from a scoring standpoint. So you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
So I would love to know what they did last year. So I know they add some unique scoring thing every single year, and it changes. So Scott tries to make it, some, special way you can get more points. And this year it was the kick return, punt return, which won me a couple weeks with some crazy plays there. So if you had a kick return player, you got double the points for the yards they got. And they changed the rules this year. So he played into the NFL theme of, changing the kickoff rules. And like if you looked at Marvin Mims, or if you looked at like Xavier Gibson or Turpin, these guys were actually flexible players in Scott Fish Bowl, and you would never start them in regular fantasy football. That's the best part about it. So like a couple weeks, even if I'm looking at it, like I threw in McCole Hardman, which won me a week when he got 20 points kick returning. So it's like it makes it a lot more interesting the way you look at it instead of just a regular, redraft league.
Yeah, can I make a confession right here? I have a confession. I wasn't very aware of every detail of the rules set, and I didn't have a game plan as far as the unique details, because I thought to myself, I'm coming in first year. I'm gonna do my best based on how I know fantasy is, find the good players. But as far as the unique factor on, tight ends, kick returners and stuff, wasn't really paying that much attention to understand how that was going to operate. And so if you look at my roster, I don't have a kick returner. I never had a kick returner. I didn't even consider the kick returning aspect of the team. So I put myself at, behind the 8 ball right from the start, and good job by me. But I would say, as we get into it, one thing that's cool is that, we were both in the same division, 12 teams. right? And in Las Vegas theme. So if you understand, Phil, the Las Vegas theme was The Hangover. So the team,
Yep.
the
Yeah.
divisions were based off of characters from The Hangover. We were in Phil, and a very tough competition. And nonetheless, we both made the playoffs. So that's really exciting for us to do this and be both in the playoffs. And obviously, we've had a chance to look at each other's teams. You have a great team. My team is decent, but
Your team's good.
Decent. And the most important part to mention all of this is, as you show the scoring on the screen, is that it's cool to be able to see that it's not just fantasy, but it's also fantasy with the unique, scoring settings that makes you actually take some risks or some changes, do some things that are completely different, and so it adds to the element of challenge, but also for fun.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you're even like looking like you're by Mageddon week right now, right? Like if you're in Scott Fishbowl right now, there's players that I'm even looking for possible kick return just because they could blow that team out and get more up, or they could get blown out and get more opportunities. That's one of like my favorite things about this was just the differentiation of the scoring. And I like it a lot. I can't wait to see what they bring next year.
Yeah, me neither. I hope I can actually pay attention and lock in on some of the new features. Anyways, though, okay, so Scott Fishbowl, we're talking about it, SFB 14. Let's actually dive into now, because we're not in the playoffs in your standard fantasy leagues. We're not in the playoffs in the NFL yet. But we know in fantasy playoffs do start earlier, and in for Scott Fishbowl, they start even earlier, right? With wild card round week 1, which is what we are walking into or heading into, starting with tonight's Thursday night game and this weekend of NFL action. This is the first weekend of the playoffs. So let's just look through, right, as you show the screen, and there's websites, and you can go to find all this. And meanwhile, let's just pause as we move forward to sort of the playoff preview and say, my guy Sleazeball here does these streams all the time, is 17 times a week. I don't even know. I can't keep up. It's so incredible. But make sure four, 1,700, whatever. Most importantly, make sure you subscribe. Look at the sub goal. I'm watching it scroll on the bottom line right now. You're 300 away. I think you're going to get there hopefully soon. Obviously, I've been a subscriber for a while, but make sure you subscribe to Sleazeball, his YouTube channel, and make sure you continue to support, because if you want to win in fantasy, you want help. I don't think there's many people doing it at the level that you are, Sleaze. And when you say your mind is a weapon, I've been able to witness this a while, for the good and the
bad. Thank you for the good. What's the bad? What's the bad?
As a guy,
you don't get them all.
As a guy that I'm playing against, he might, sometimes take the guys I want. That's not so good for me. It might be good for you. So yeah, it's bad in a good way.
I would also like to get us into I want to get you into the Content Creator League next year.
Well, yeah. Listen, if you want to get me in there, you just have to be concerned about what happens next, because I come to compete. I'm not just there so you can just roll. I'm not the rollover guy. You're not just going to walk all over me.
Right. I agree. I mean, you look at your team now. Your Scott Fish team is good too.
Well, so let's get into our teams, right, and our drafts, and then we can talk just shortly about the playoff preview, right? And if you want, why don't we start with your team, since you had the second pick out of 12?
All right, so I came in, I did a ton of research to it, and I was looking. My main goal was to target any wide receiver that had a punt return behind, right, which would be like Jaden Reed or Rashid Shaheed, who obviously, Rashid Shaheed was like a number 5 scorer last year in Scott Fishbowl, right?
Right, and then per game he was one of the best.
Right, and then all of a sudden he's out for the year. So what I did when I came in was I was like, all right, I'm going to see how these guys do this. And some people went 4 tight ends in the first round because of the tight end premium. So I saw Travis Kell, Sam Laporta, all these guys going off the board. And when I was looking at my chart, I was like, I think Evan Ingram's a higher scorer than all these guys. So I waited for Evan Ingram in the 4th round. Obviously, he got hurt. Took Cooper Kupp in the 3rd round. He got hurt. Took CMC at the 1.2. He didn't even freaking play for me. So right out the gates, I was already in IR purgatory till week 6, and I had to coach using all the kick returners. That's how I survived the Scott Fishbowl for the first 5-6 weeks here. So, I mean, if you even look at my rosters, like if I go to, matchups I'm having here, like week 5, when I played Michael Ripe, took him down, right? You see Josh Downs in there. He's one of my targets. You see Xavier Gibson. You see Greg Dortch. So I was literally surviving just off the scoring settings. That's how rough it was for me with the injuries at the start.
Yeah, I don't know why you had to bring up week 5 and then also add insult to injury by then just completely destroying my name. But um,
But I
I'll
mean, if
take
you look through my roster every single week, I have 2 kick returners in there because I had no choice. So like Hardman, I have Downs is obviously punt returner, kick returner. He's been a great asset to Scott Fish 100%. But
yes.
it was brutal, man.
So I'm looking at your I'm looking back at the draft now, right? You had second pick. Obviously, we're doing it's a snake style draft. Now we had drafted, was it the first 8 rounds live? Was that
We drafted the first 8 live, yeah.
right, so the way it works is you draft the first 8 live. So you're on the clock. You're kind of around people. It's a different experience when you're doing something live or in your own setting. A little bit more unique and kind of fun to go put the name on the board and stuff. And you see everyone else's pick and you're watching. You kind of talking to other managers, seeing what they're thinking. You know, maybe playing some Jedi mind tricks or not. I mean,
Oh yeah, for sure they were.
I specifically remember with you talking about the Rashid Shaheed thing at one point. But let's look at your draft because just was there one pick when you
Here, I'll
look
go
back?
like this. Hang on.
Yeah,
Oh,
looking back at the draft, is there one pick that you thought you crushed, or was there a theme as you look at your draft board that you go, man, this is where it really got going, or was there something to that stands out? Because I know there is for me, but I'm curious about your team.
so the quarterbacks went like hot cakes at the beginning, which made me really panic. I didn't want to take Jared Goff in the third. I'm not going to lie about that. But when you have, Purdy, T-Law, Love, Prescott, everyone was gone. It was either Goff, and I really should have taken Herbert, man. The way Herbert's turned his season around, that would have been absolute money right there. But look at it. You see 12 tight ends off the board before I get to my quarterback. Or we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 tight ends by round 4. So that just turned the panic meter on for me right there because it's my first time in Scott Fish. And I was like, oh shit, maybe this tight end premium is this big of a deal. But then the tight ends didn't really pan out for the first, 7, 8 weeks of fantasy football. So that kind of helped me as well. That's kind of lucky though, in a way. And I don't think, you're going to have that rough tight end start like that every year. But that was what kept me in the thing kind of because I didn't target tight end heavy. I only went with Pat Frymouth and Evan Ingram. And Pat Frymouth's been terrible.
Well, and then you even mentioned you should have taken Justin Herbert. You'll be shocked if you look at the draft board where Justin Herbert ends up going because you could have gotten Herbert, but hey.
Or Baker Mayfield. He fell to the 10th.
I think the biggest takeaway too is when you run down your draft, you run down other drafts, you run down, my draft, and you look at the draft board, and we're now at the playoff season, the period, and you really realize that a lot of times I think in the off season you can sort of get stuck on new trends or these new ideas because maybe there's so much content around these names that it really changes your idea, and then you start to think about like there's a lot of players that early on that just. It's not just because of injury. They just don't perform. Things change quickly. And then a lot of your later picks, and in my opinion, oftentimes you win fantasy and specifically build good teams by depth, by finding the guys later in your drafts. And that's really where you can build a team. And especially in a deep league where this is a super flex league. This is a huge roster that's starting. You've got a lot of players, not just in these unique scoring settings. And so I think sometimes it's a good idea to sort of check out from just what everyone is doing and sort of go the opposite. And I'll just take that idea from, on one hand, for me, I couldn't grasp how impactful these new settings were going to be with the tight ends and the kick returners. As I said, I didn't even consider the kick returner. I just literally don't have returners. I didn't even play Scott Fish Bowl with the idea of returning points, which clearly, if I wanted to be in the 1% of 1%, maybe I should have done better there. Next year, I'll be more locked in there. But I knew tight end was somewhat impactful, but I decided, look, I'm going to try to get a lot of good players and try to figure out tight end later, which, may work sometimes, may not. I think in this scenario, it's funny because my thoughts when I came away from my draft, as you look at it, is 2 things. One, I was devastated at a live draft. I had built my entire draft board, I thought, around taking Anthony Richardson at number 9. And as you see, Anthony Richardson goes 8. And so now I'm on the clock, my first draft, my first pick, and I'm like, oh, man, I really wanted Anthony Richardson. And instead I get CJ Stroud. Now, ironically, when you look at it, it's like Richardson hasn't panned out. Stroud really hasn't panned out. And so sometimes, you don't have to beat yourself up because you're going to miss no matter what. And there is a lot of luck involved. But I think the takeaway I have is that I thought I was going to be completely screwed at tight end. I thought I was going to have massive issues there. I took late dart throws on guys that I thought could perform. And I ultimately think I have
you hit it.
Some of the best tight ends,
Yeah.
which is ironic because when I did it, it felt really dirty. It felt really uncomfortable. But you look at my tight ends now, and I got Cade Otton, I got Jonnu Smith, and I got Zach Ertz. And those guys have been, because of the scoring settings, been very impactful to helping me get to where we are now. But more importantly, I just want to run through a quick part of my draft that I thought I did really well. Not so much at the top, but you see that there's a run there starting in round 13 where I pick, this is 150 plus. I go Cade Otton, I go Chuba Hubbard, J.K. Dobbins, and then Jonnu Smith. And you go, okay, this is how you do well in not just Scott Fishbowl and fantasy. You start picking these guys that end up being much more impactful on your roster, and you get them much later. This allows you to miss here or there as well. So I thought that was really impactful in getting me to a squad that could compete.
I also, one thing to touch on, I didn't know they had that 0.25 per carry when we did the draft. So running back value was even heavier than you thought. So when you got Chuba Hubbard in the 13th round, he should have been in the 4th or 5th round. That's the crazy part to me. I didn't know they had that, per carry. So that's why CMC and his projection now is always 30 points, right? Because you get so many touches.
Yep.
And I was like, damn, I wish I knew that going in because I didn't really target running backs at all. I went CMC early in Kamara and then nothing, or Eckler because he was a returner. But that was one point that I missed on too as well. So I got to be ready for that next year and pay attention to the settings just like you as well. I was more kick return based.
Yeah. Well, I mean, man, if we were doing like a scramble in golf, but for fantasy, we would have tag teamed well since I didn't even think about it. And look at you, you're going strong on one set and one not. And so really cool. Hey, let's take a second to say welcome and thank you to everyone that's joined us in the comments, listening in, watching, participating in Scott Fishbowl and in fantasy. I know
100%.
this is a huge pleasure and joy to consistently get on here and do these type of shows and streams and just the content. So I love it. All right, so we're in the playoffs now, Sleaze. So what's your thought? I mean, we have
panic.
Wild card round 1, and 1,500 of the 2,000 teams will advance to round 2. Currently, it takes a basic season average of your weekly totals, and then you add what you do in this upcoming week to your score to see if you can advance. So currently, your team, because you did well this season with points, are a little bit above the cut line. My team is a little bit below the cut line. I'll need a better week. But ultimately, everyone at this point, you still need to have a good week, because if you don't have a good week, you could be just knocked out, which is kind of the fun of the fantasy playoffs and how kind of the luck and also the skill are all coming together. So how do you feel about this wild card round week 1, your team, your chances, and a little bit of a playoff preview?
I'm a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. And another thing, I didn't know that week 12 was when it was going to start the playoffs. So more information I need to be paying attention to heading into next year, because right now I'm down 2 big guys in a crucial week right here. This could end my season in 1 week. And you're on bye-mageddon week. So, 6 teams on a bye here, and we're going into the playoffs. And some teams, like I don't really know how the medium is going to work kind of like that, because I'm +4 over your mind, or was it -4? I don't think that's a big difference, right? Because if your team shits the bed, you're kind of done.
Right. And this is my point. I mean, ultimately, the averages are cool because it helps take into account the regular season, but you have to have a good week. Like, for example, week 1, I scored 100 points. I never scored less than, I think, 150 any other week. I mean, if you scored 100 points in this week, no matter really who you are, you're probably out. And so, it's important that your team does the best in the playoffs, which is just like in real football, which is what's cool about this, in the sense, like, you got to perform these weeks more so, which is challenging because there's a lot of luck involved. You don't know who's scoring the touchdowns and whatnot, but it's really exciting. As you said, so you're +4, I'm -7. So I have a little bit more work to do. You have a little bit of more room for error. And then ultimately it kind of depends on how the rest of the teams are, but 500 teams won't advance. And hopefully I'm not one of those 500, neither are you, but we'll see.
Are we thinking it's going to affect everybody because bye-mageddon, right? So you got 1,500 or 2,000 people in. So
now you got to remember, we're playing in this sort of setup where now, instead of just playing in your own, in your own division,
playing against everybody.
and everybody. And so there's going to be, certain guys, just like in a best ball idea, where there's guys that are on a lot of the playoff teams. So, even if, let's say, Jonnu Smith has an amazing game for me, it's not like I'm the only one having that amazing game. There's a number of teams who made the playoffs who probably roster Jonnu and are doing really well as well. So there's that aspect of sort of best ball in a sense where, players are on multiple teams. So you got to consider that. So it's going to be interesting. And as I said, we're both first time. I'm not quite sure what to expect. I just hopefully expect my team to just have a massive game so I can make it forward.
Right. So you move on. That's the key.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I'm heading into week 14. I'm done in week 14. It's might be over. So these are like the crazy things of fantasy football that, probably not a first timer like us aren't going to know. Right. So, I mean, next year I'm going to have that completely dialed in because I have six buys coming up in week 14. I'm probably toast.
Well, and also this is a unique year with the buys. And I touched on this. I touched on this in a lot in my season preview early on when I was talking about how do you prepare for your season. It's just to consider because there's a lot, and not just Scott Fishbowl here, in a lot of fantasy leagues, there are some leagues where week 14 is a playoff week. Whether you're playing multi-week playoffs, whether, where you play, 2 weeks for one matchup, whether you just start earlier, more teams, who knows what. Plenty of leagues will be playing week 14 as a playoff week. And there'd be nothing worse than you have an awesome season and you get to your playoff week in week 14 and half your team is gone because, you were rostering some of these studs and now they're not there for your playoff week. So definitely something to consider next season. But this, we'll have to see how the NFL breaks it down. But at any late buys, those are very impactful.
Oh my God, it's killer. It's absolutely killer.
Yeah.
I heard you want to drop me Tommy DeVito right now is what you said, right? You don't need him on your roster.
I picked him up. I just dropped Daniel Jones to pick up Tommy DeVito.
Let's do that.
I think the team needed good food. So here's what I took. I don't know. Maybe this is a setting. I'll have to talk to Scott. Is there points for feeding the rest of the team meatballs and chicken cutlet and stuff? Like I was thinking get my roster well fed. We got Mama DeVito. She's putting the food on the table. We're eating well. Get those carbs ready to rock and roll. Get out there on the field and do numbers. But yeah, I picked up Tommy DeVito because I dropped Daniel Jones. And is it
DeVito's schedule is nice.
Is it crazy to think like maybe Tommy DeVito starting for me in the Scott Fishbowl playoffs? I don't know.
Over Caleb Williams, I like it.
It's tough when you have CJ Stroud, Caleb Williams, and Tommy DeVito in a 2-quarterback superflex league. And you're in the playoffs. But hey, this is where we are today, and we're working with it. So, So any more thoughts? I mean, are you having trouble setting your lineup for the first week of the playoffs? Are you locked in? Do you have any changes? Anything you want to share?
Only thing I'm hoping for is the weather tonight in the game with the Pittsburgh-Cleveland game. I'm running Pickens and Freiermuth because I have Ingram on a bye. I could throw out Schoonmaker. I mean, that's another option, but it's a Thursday night game, so I won't get to know about that concussion probably till later in the week. So that's another risk I take there. And then I pretty much with my roster, the way I constructed it down the stretch here, I was looking for running back handcuffs. So I don't have a lot of depth. I'm pretty much Kareem Hunt, hoping that Pacheco is out. I could a Cooper Rush or Bryce Young. Yeah, right. Not throwing them in. And then I have Zamir White, Herbert Pierce, and Marvin Mims for the return. So it's not looking great here with this week. I'm a little nervous this week. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, so
how are you feeling about your team this week?
I mean, ultimately, quite nervous. I don't have a good feeling because I'm behind the 8 ball coming in already. You talked about my quarterback situation. My quarterback situation will make anybody nervous, let alone nervous is a nice thing to say based on the performances. Although somewhat hopeful that maybe this could be a boom CJ Stroud week because Nico is more healthy and maybe, we haven't seen massive Stroud weeks and we never really see him, but hopefully this is one where he gets a little bit more. But some notes also that were just fun, I wanted to touch on. There was a player that we both shared in Scott Fishbowl this season and is a good player. And that's kicker.
I dropped him.
You did, right. So in September 12th, you added Chris Boswell to your team. It's a very smart move, Sleaze. Very smart. That mind was working well then. And then
I dropped him on the bye week.
Yeah. And then later in the season, October 10th, so about a month later, you said, Chris, thank you for your services. We're going a different direction. And that's when your mind is a weapon against you. And so you drop Chris Boswell, and then I just come in. I'm looking at the waiver wire. I'm looking at the teams, and there I see Chris Boswell. So I said, "Oh, I need Chris Boswell on my team." So I pick up Chris Boswell. Now he rides with my team, but a guy that if you win, he still gets a ring. If I win, he gets so. Fun little touch up. We're doing this show this morning, and at the same time, we do share Chris Boswell. He thanked you for the time there, and he said he's very happy where he is now. He performed well last week. Hoping he performs well again. But kind of fun that we shared one player this season in fantasy in Scott Fishbowl. So that was Chris Boswell, and he's been incredible, obviously, at the kicker position. But as far as my team is concerned, I think I have a pretty good team.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, if you look at the team, it's pretty solid. It's not, if I'm being completely honest,
you got bad matchups this week, man.
Yeah, it's not great.
You got tough matchups.
Yeah, exactly. But look, this is what fantasy works like, right? You have tough matchups. It doesn't work out the way you think, and then you overthink it, and then it works out because your guy gets 3 touchdowns at the goal line. This is fantasy. At some level, what I like to do is and I think this is a credit to not just you, to me in making the playoffs, but I always say, when you play fantasy, I think the first goal is to make the playoffs. I think at a huge level, having a successful season is making the playoffs, because that's the accumulation of the season. That's not just randomness in 1 week. Everyone wants to win the championship. It's very hard because it's not just about having the right players. You got to be very lucky. You got to be lucky enough. It's the right week that they go off. It's the right matchup who you're playing against. It's the right, they get the ball and it's not a penalty. There's so many variables in fantasy that are out of your control that you could do everything right and still get the wrong result. So the key is, I think if you make the playoffs, you've had a good season. I would never be disappointed long term. Yes, you want to win, but making the playoffs first and foremost in fantasy, no matter your league, is a success. And so we both did that. That's awesome. So now, to me, I want to do as well as I can. But yeah, I have tough matchups. I always come into this thinking like, I want to do well. I'm not too stressed out because I'm going to put my best team forward and I'm going to hope for the best, and we'll see where where it lies. But yeah, tough matchups, but I like my team, right? Because I do have those tight ends. Jonnu Smith is coming on real strong. He's got
revenge game.
And he's got extra points and he's got the perfect setup. Jonnu, and then I got Cortland Sutton, who has been coming on playing well ever since he was active and inactive. Chuba, been a delight. So I think I have a pretty good roster outside of the quarterbacks, especially starting, because Amon-Ra's been great. Jonathan Taylor's been good enough, especially, he's not your elite running back one, but he's been in that
touches.
Yeah. So I think I have a good chance. And ultimately, it's going to come down to, do these guys get in the end zone, get you those big points this week, next week?
Is there any decisions you're thinking of making a roster move with?
No, because, the reality is I made those roster moves as far as I picked up Tommy DeVito. Really, the only thing is when you can look at the roster, yourself, but what would you do different than what I'm starting now? And I've thought about this a few times. I mean, I do have Javonte Williams.
I do think Javonte Williams is someone I'd be interested in playing this week, even though he didn't see that many touches. It's the Raiders.
That's my one debate. Do you start Javonte? But you go back to Javonte in the last 6 weeks, and it's been on, off, on, off, on, off. When he's getting the point, right? He was awesome too. He was awesome this past week. 2 weeks ago, he was gone. You just want to drop him, right? Because now it's estimate season. Then he was good. So it's hard to necessarily know what the right move is, obviously, but I don't have that many decisions that are stressing me out outside of, I guess you could look at Tank Dell. Do I start Tank Dell? But he hasn't done it for all season, so I'm going to keep Tank on the bench, and I think I'm going to keep Javonte on the bench unless you are able to convince me otherwise. Because who am I replacing?
So I would look at it like this. I got your team up. All right, so you get C.J. Stroud, tough matchup. You get, Tennessee's good versus the pass. Could be a bad game script. You get Caleb Williams, who's going to get blitzed like crazy. Tommy DeVito is interesting dart throw to me. The matchup is great there. It is the biggest tournament. It is the biggest time. Every decision matters here. Amon-Ra is my wide receiver 1. You're starting him. Cortland Sutton, you're starting him. Neighbors, you're starting him. Dobbins is scary against Baltimore.
He's scary, but look, you have the revenge game. You have the Harbaugh Bowl. He looked very good last week.
He scored at the end, and they got the fourth and goal punch in where they used Haskins as a goal line back first.
He had a nice run. He looked more explosive than he had the last few weeks. And I mean, look at Javonte Williams. If you go by Javonte Williams games, you go, this is a week where he's gonna, look at this.
I know he's up and down. He's a roller coaster, right?
And
I don't know, man. You got at least you have options. Though. See, I don't even have options.
Yeah,
that's the worst part.
And then you go, maybe Caleb Williams is going to be better with the new offensive, game plan.
Thomas.
And the one thing you say about Chicago and Caleb Williams is that they do have this new game plan, and they're playing Minnesota. Minnesota stops the run, so it's going to pass. That's their one chance.
Right. That's and you got DeAndre Swift banged up too.
So
yeah, I think I'm leaving it like it is. If anything, Javonte Williams is interesting.
I've thought about it. There's some interesting, and it's a debate. And then I think to myself,
the New York Giants are number 1 versus tight end with Cade Otton, and Mike Evans is back. That'd be my only swap, maybe, if there was one. I think I'd play the safe floor of Javonte over Cade.
Right, and here's where I differ in my philosophy. One, look at Cade Otton's games. He's
balling. Yeah,
he has. I mean, look at those numbers. I mean, to not play him, in my opinion, is malpractice. Because I'll tell you what.
I know it's tough.
I understand the matchup stuff and things, but at some level, it's like he's been the number 5 tight end all season. To not play him in the wild card round, whether or not the matchup isn't great to me, is like that. I can't do that. That's just not how I operate, right? Like at some level, I like to live and die with the guys that have gotten me there, that have been really good. Because it's going to feel way worse if I'm the idiot that sat Cade Otton because I thought I was outsmarting everyone or overdoing this when he's been number 5 overall. So it's like, I fought through these things, right? And I think
those numbers are inflated because they were both out, right? So I mean, you're also going to have McMillan back as well to go along with Evans.
Yeah. I mean, look, Cade Otton has had 39 targets in the last 4 weeks. I don't think Cade Otton is all of a sudden disappearing. If anything, I think he's going to continue to do Cade Otton things. Maybe it's more challenging defensive matchup for sure. But at the end of the day, the way I like to focus on it is I take into consideration the matchups, but I much more importantly play the players that have got me places that I think deserve to play, honestly, right? I'm not smart enough to.
It's a tough one, bro. You got Keenan Allen too, Tank Dell too.
Yeah, some side.
Yike! You got a lot of options though. Let's see. If you look at my team, what would you do different with my team?
Let's pull it up. Let's look at the team.
So, all right.
And I'm pulling it up here too. But let's take a quick look at the squad because I look at your. I mean, your squad is top heavy as far as you just have like uber talent. I mean, when I was looking at you start Jaden Daniels, Christian McCaffrey, Terry McLaurin, and then you have Cooper Kupp, Jared Goff. I mean, you have Jared Goff, Jaden Daniels setup makes my CJ Stroud, Caleb Williams setup look. How are we competing in the same competition?
Although Jaden Daniels has been a shell of himself the past 2 weeks.
Hopefully
it's the bounce back week.
Yeah. I mean, so what would you do different? I mean, obviously you're unlucky because you have no Kamara. The Hunt thing is questionable, right? Like I know you're thinking about,
that's my Hunt or Pop Douglas is my decision all week long. All week.
Well, how about this? What about it? What about Shoemaker? I see you picked him up real fast.
That's what I'm saying. But if I put Shoemaker in for Pat Freiermuth, right, and then Jake Ferguson clears concussion protocol, I'm sitting with nothing.
Right. Yeah, it's a tough one. I happen to think that Ferguson won't clear the protocol for 2 reasons. One, because of Dallas.
The season's over. Yeah.
The season's over, and it was Monday night.
Right.
So it's a much shorter turnaround. So I think that's your one decision. I honestly, when I saw you picked up Shoemaker, I was, because I had thought about him at some level, but I had so many tight ends, it didn't make sense. But, I thought that might be something you were considering because I think that Freiermuth play, especially with the weather and stuff,
it's ugly.
Yeah. But this is what makes fantasy is
right.
Get these decisions. You don't have all the information, whether the player's playing, and then you have these uncertainties, and then you have the weather, and then you start to put it all together and you say, how much of a weapon is your mind?
Dude, this is the crunch time. I just need to hear that Pacheco is out. That's all I want. And then I think I'm sitting pretty.
Yeah, so we've talked about this a few times. I think Pacheco is playing. Unless you know
think
something.
He's going to play versus Carolina. Why would they roll him out?
because I think two reasons. One, Chiefs got to win. And I know it's Carolina, but I think that they also need to see some speed. They need to see their players. And if Pacheco is healthy, I could see him getting in some limited action. If he's not, obviously they're not going to play him. But I think if
Would
he's
you
ready
still
to
play Hunt over Pop D with, say, Pacheco's back limited?
I think I would play Hunt for this reason. I just think that it is because it's Carolina that even with Pacheco playing, and even if it's a less Hunt game, it's got to imagine that Hunt's going to be able to get in the end zone and still get
Either way, right?
That's what I think. That's my thought going into it. But obviously, I don't think I should have any impact on what you decide because I don't want to have any reason why it didn't go right. But I mean, from my perspective, I still think I feel like this is our last Kareem Hunt starting week, right? Like I think once
Pacheco's been a monster.
That's my point, and that's why I think like this is still a week where if I'm rostering Kareem Hunt, I feel like I'm playing him because he's a great matchup. Even if Pacheco plays, I can't see Pacheco getting a full carry. So
fucking rips. God, that's what I'm thinking too, bro. God damn it! All right,
but look, it's your team, and also you have good. I mean, you have a good squad. So
Pop Douglas he's got 10 points 3 games in a row. You get the extra bonus of the carry for Kareem Hunt. There's been 8 teams that have had 2 running backs drop 10 plus points on Carolina on the same team.
I mean, look at the numbers and look at Kareem Hunt's numbers just from a volume standpoint.
I know.
I mean, it would be hard for me, and that was one of and look, the reason you're even in this debate is because you made a wonderful waiver addition in season by picking up Kareem Hunt, one of the great pickups. I looked through all the transactions in the league. You did a great job there. You picked him up and you
picked him up before the injury.
Yeah, no, you did. You picked him up early, and it was super impressive because I looked through all the transactions to see where people went right and went wrong, and so I would be personally playing him for all the reasons talked about already. But again, it's your team. And so this is where fantasy is fun too. We differ a little. Maybe you play more on game script as far as matchup script. And that takes a certain level of skill of sort of predicting or understanding how it's going to play out. And
Jerry likes it as a great play this week. What's up, Jerry? Shout out to you, man. Welcome. Nate, everybody in chat. I never even said hi. What's good, everybody? Make sure you smash a like and a sub on my guy, Michael Ripe. All that is in the description. Amazing show here. I love doing shows with him. We always crack up. It's fun.
My guy, please. I gotta say that the most fun thing I think that I've come to understand with you and all season we've been doing this. You and last names, man, don't get along, right? Like our boy H. I remember our first show, H-An.
H-An. What is it?
It's been the same forever. It's still Rippy. It will always be for you. You can call me Ripe. You can call me whatever. It's fun. I just love the idea. The one thing I know about that mountain is the name.
It's not good for last names. It's not.
No, I remember we had this conversation around H-An. We were calling you H-An, H-An, H-An. Like it was
someone else too that I missed on big time.
I love it. I love it. But yeah, look, I think if in sort of conclusion here, two other things before we do conclude. Look, let's go to the standings. Can you pull up the standings? I want to give credit to a team here. You see number one? You see the number one team?
Who's FF3 putt?
Do you notice something interesting about that team? Okay, so look at the standings. We got a team here, FF3 putt. They got the most points, right? Most points, 2,208 points for this season. They're 17-5. But he's
been playing Turpin too a lot.
Here's what I wanted to say. Shout out to FF3 Putt. I'm not sure who it is, but I want to give credit because as I look through everything, here's what was most amazing to me. They haven't made any waiver wire moves. They have $100 waiver still.
Yeah, he's been balling. Yeah,
so
drafted a gem.
Not only dominating, 17-5, first place, 2,200 points, most points scored. Hasn't even had to tap into the waiver. Like, no, I don't need waivers.
Look at his bench too. He got Trey Lance, I think, but look at his bench. He still has Bijan, Brian Thomas Jr., Jamar Chase, and Drake London out, and his roster is still solid.
Insane.
Drafted great. Bo Nix was one of the steals of Scott Fish. That's for sure.
Just insane. Like, talk about wanting to show off. Not only am I going to beat you all, have the most points, dominate, have a roster that looks like this. I don't even have to
make a move.
Who needs waivers? I don't need any of that. $100. So credit to FF3, but I thought that was really interesting as I looked through the details a little bit deeper. And
so he's already in then, yeah? He's already through, right? He can have a bad week and be fine, right? Because he's at 2208, which puts him plus, 50 over the medium.
Yeah, but I don't
all
think
he needs is 100 points to advance.
I mean, yeah, well, more than 100, I would think. But that's my point. Look, in week 1, I only scored 100 points. When I looked at my schedule, I was like, what happened here? Did I not play? So my thing is, if you throw up one of those clunkers, and look, we've seen it all. If you've done fantasy, yes, he should be through that team, and maybe it's a she. He or she should be through, but no guarantees. But yeah, way starting out from a very advantageous position, and deservedly so. I mean, I thought to be able to be top dog and also not touch waivers, not even $1, quite impressive, almost like a flex.
Have you seen this?
Yeah, David. Yeah, David.
David is 22-0.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So I mean, he's already through.
He's averaging
25 average.
Averaging 220. He's at, you know what's crazy? Averaging 225. I've never scored 225.
I think you did. Oh, you want to see something funny from the Scott Fish Bowl that no one really recognized? Go to week 1 of the Scott Fish Bowl.
Okay.
And look at my matchup. It'll bust. You'll bust up.
Yeah.
You see how I lost?
Yeah.
The late CMC update in week 1.
Yeah.
Last minute before Monday Night Football.
That's right. I remember actually now thinking back to it. Yeah, I remember you talking about this.
I lost by .4 because of a stupid update.
Well, and this is sometimes the things
you scored 200 once.
A couple times, but never 225. Here's my point. He's averaging 225. I've never scored it. So
that's fake. Can we see his team?
I don't know how that works. I would love to see his team. It's probably just a list of all the MVPs or all the kick. He's got all the tight ends, all the kick returners, something, because highly impressive performance. All right, should we take a question or two? I see you posting them.
Yeah, I see Mike in there. What's up, Mike? Welcome in from the YouTube side, brother. He says, would you trade Chase Brown, Tyrone Tracy, and Debo for Tyreek Hunt and DJ Moore? I'll let you answer that one.
I would not do that.
I'm not.
Yeah, no, I would not do that for a number of reasons. One, I almost think that Tyrone Tracy may be the best player in that entire trade. And then you have Chase Brown
as him.
And then you have Chase Brown, and then you have Debo. And honestly, right now, with what we're seeing out of Tyreek, especially with this wrist injury that apparently is getting worse by the week, it's almost like, to me, that Tyreek is almost now Debo in a sense, like level, even though Debo hasn't been that good himself. And then DJ Moore has been a complete afterthought. And then Kareem Hunt's value is about to drop precipitously. Yeah. So, no, I would not do that trade.
I think Chase Brown, man, he looks lights out. He's seeing a massive volume. He's never coming off the field. Tyrone Tracy's schedule is too good. And Debo, people are panicking for no reason. He's going to be a game breaker. And when they bench him, they're going to be pissed that they benched him.
Oh, I forgot. We got the Mr. 49ers here. I
forgot. Dude, I just realized from your team why you defended Javonte Williams. And I didn't realize it till this stream. Because you drafted Javonte Williams in Vegas. That's why the beginning of the season, we were talking about Javonte. Oh,
no.
I get it now. I get it.
I don't know if I defended him because of Scott Fish Bowl. I had Javonte on a number of teams. I thought Javonte was a decent sleeper coming in. Look, if anything, you know that I was on the Denver train from week.
Yeah, you nailed that.
My number one, that was my play. The over. They've been significantly better than anyone expected. Not me. I mean, this is sort of where I thought. I didn't think
Bo Nix called 8 wins. They're gonna get 8 wins. Might be a fucking playoff team. I might have to take that one to the face. Bo Nix looks good.
I think he may be a playoff team. I've already cashed the season wins total, but more importantly, I never thought Javonte Williams was going to be running back 1, but I definitely thought he was going to be a contributor to the team. Now, it hasn't been that exciting or fun because it's been up, down, and you hate that in fantasy where you don't have the consistency or the confidence. So it makes it worse. But, he's been, your solid guy that helps out rosters. So especially in a deep league, that's where those guys are important. And that's where when you play 12 team, your home redraft league, and that's it, it's less important. When you play big leagues with big, starting rosters where you got 4 or 5 flexes, that's where you got to find these deeper sleepers often. So that he just fit in that criteria for me.
Right. All right, let's pop a couple questions here. Nate says I traded CD for AJ Brown. Love AJ Brown over CD Lamb the rest of the way. Great trade there. I think you're going to agree with that one. Easy. Agreed. Jose says, is it good to trade Lamb for Chase Brown and Devontae Adams? Man, I really like Chase Brown over CD Lamb. Depends on if it's 0.5 or 1 point PPR for me.
I think it also depends on what your roster looks like, right? Because can you afford do you need Lamb? Like, what does your wide receiver look like? Do you need running back help, right? Like, that's where it comes down to it.
I really like Chase Brown a lot.
He looks
so
good.
Would you rather have CD Lamb or Chase Brown the rest of the way? Who's going to score more points?
I think I'd rather
Chase Brown.
I think I'm taking Chase Brown.
Yeah, so I like that trade either way. And you don't know how it's going to look for the Jets down the stretch here if they're even playing their old guys or however it's going to work out for them. God, did I miss big on the Jets this year? It was terrible. Got you, Mike. B-Dog, what's up, my man? He says, would you trade JT for Ken Walker? I'm taking K9. I'm taking Ken Walker on this one. I don't like the schedule looking ahead for the Colts, and I don't like that Anthony Richardson is back vulturing goal line carries.
Yeah.
What would you do here?
Yeah, this one's really close. I guess it's
51-49.
Yeah, I'd probably stick with JT just from past. We've seen it a lot out of JT. I know his upside talent a lot. Even though Ken Walker's coming on strong, I like Ken Walker as a player, but I also feel like Ken Walker has a lot of injury concerns here or there. So
JT still has the bye coming.
Yeah, that's a strong consideration too. So look at
on Buymageddon too. So that's something you should look at.
Right. Do you need to win week 14? Is that your playoffs? Or can you look at the playoff? Like some of these questions, I think, especially you get past week 10, you really have to start diving into your own league. And it can't be there's not a standard answer that's definitely right until you bring into your own league considerations. You really have to consider, who am I playing? What's the matchup? Do I need to win or not? Same thing with waivers at this point. Like, you should be picking up players for your own stretch run playoff if you're, need to win in that week or you need to win in a playoff week. So there's different ways that you really can answer this. I mean, JT or Ken Walker could be better depending on who you are.
K9, man. Look at this, dude. So when you go JT, you're going to get 4 tough matchups. When you get Kenneth Walker, you get Arizona twice, who is bottom of the barrel versus the run. Green Bay, who's tough. Minnesota, yeah. Fuck. Kenneth Walker's playoff schedule is really tough, actually. So is JT's, though. So, yeah. I mean, that's like a 51-49 on that one.
Yeah, I'll take JT to go to the other side on that one for you.
And then he said, oh, dude, I'm smashing that trade, Jose. You have Puka, Evans, and AJ. You can trade Lamb, bro. For sure. I would try to get upgraded running back for Chase Brown.
Agreed.
All right. Anything else, Scott Fish, you want to talk about? What are we planning for 2025? How about that? Because I'm bringing my boys this time.
You are?
Mm-hmm. We're bringing like 4 or 5 of us. We're going to get a sick-ass spot instead of what we did last time.
Oh, I thought you were bringing like Grey Goose, Tito's, Kettle.
Oh, we're bringing all that. Yeah.
You said boys. I wasn't sure what we were talking
about. No, so like 4 or 5 of my friends that saw it, they were like, dude, why did you just invite us to Vegas? I was like, it's my first time. I didn't know anyone there. I didn't know what was going on. So now you kind of, inserted into the like Scott Fishbowl Vegas family side. So I think it's going to be a little more wild this time when we come down there.
Well, I love that. I would just say I'm looking forward to seeing how the rest of this season plays out. And obviously next summer will be really exciting. If anything, hopefully the draft will be a little bit later in the summer. I think it'll be nice to have it not in June. Maybe it's even mid-July, not just because of the heat, but also it really is a long period. I mean, the one thing I remember specifically is like you draft your roster and then we couldn't make any moves or anything for a significant amount of time. So
right.
you kind of just stuck there, and
they stopped the waiver till week 1.
Yeah,
so hold everything with every update, and then everybody blasted their money right away.
Just on pause for a while. But I can't wait to do it again next summer, next season.
So you live in Vegas, yes? Right?
Sometimes
set us up with some of the parties. What's going on? I need a rippy setup, not ripe, rippy setup.
See, when you get it right, then you have much more chance to get ripe with me out here.
Right? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you can get it right. There's sometime I'm in Vegas, sometime Los Angeles, West Coast for sure. But no, we're definitely going to have a lot of fun. I'm excited if you're going to bring your boys, get to meet your boys. We definitely get to go out. And as I said, I didn't know anyone last year, so I went in to meet people, and I did, and it was fun. But I didn't get to participate in some of the maybe extracurricular activities. But I'm sure this season I'll be able to do more of that, and looking forward to it all. And look, final thoughts are just it's been a really fun season. Good luck to everyone that's in the playoffs. If you didn't, good luck next season, and hopefully you come back and keep contributing to the good causes that Scott Fish and the entire team and organization, at Fantasy Cares are doing. Because to me, that's been the most fun part about being part of this competition, is that it's going to a good cause. And so really fun to have that in the background. And obviously Scott Fish is, massive inside the industry and out. So really, really cool to be able to talk about it with you, and good luck to you. Hopefully to me,
man.
And we'll see.
That was awesome, man. Another thing, got to shout out Smitty, man. That was meeting one of my fantasy football idols. It was kind of crazy drafting against him, playing against him in the league. I've been watching his fantasy football show, kind of led me to start my own in the way. So I got to throw him a little shout out. That was awesome. And everything in Vegas was just perfect, man. He set it up beautifully. The Circa, unbelievable event. Fantasy Cares, even the giveaways they gave away, like how much stuff they just give back is absolutely crazy out there. And you guys have to check out my guy, Get It Ripe YouTube page and Twitter link. It is in the description, guys. If you're in the YouTube channel or the Twitter right now, make sure you drop my guy a follow. Does amazing content, amazing personality, amazing person. Got to meet him, and I can't wait to see you again next year, man. We're gonna get it going in Vegas.
We are. Hopefully I'll get to see you sometime before then. Good luck to your real football team, the 49ers.
It's over, bro. I think it's done.
Not
what
over
do you
yet.
think? What are our chances?
You're one game back in the division.
I know, but what are our real chances with all the injuries that are just piling up?
Injuries are everywhere. None of that. Get on the football field, play winning football, stop giving games away. You'll be all right.
Yeah, no, that's the problem. We can't finish in the fourth quarter.
No, you got to start finishing. I don't know what's happened to Shanahan, but anyways, I think you'll be all right. I really do. This has been a lot of fun. As Lee said, give me a follow on Monday mornings, the morning after football, 7:30 a.m. Pacific, talking real and fantasy. Love to have you guys join, ask some questions, hang out, and Sleaze, we'll see you again there at some point.
Yeah, and then guys, I will be live today at 5 p.m. Eastern again with all the start sit show for you guys for 2 hours. We'll go over some splash drafts on drafters, look at your guys' roster, and if you're in the Discord, I'll pull it up and show you what you guys need to do, whatever you want there.
And Disco's on the show?
Disco shows right after.
Oh, all right. You got to
give Disco in?
Nah, I got to work, man. You got to give Disco some love. I haven't talked to him in a while. I miss him. Gotcha. And hopefully I'll catch up with you guys soon.
All right, man.
Thank
you guys.
Peace.